Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone. Today's class topic is construction financing for the course Real Estate Finance and Investment Strategies. So, first the learning objectives of this class. The fundamentals of construction financing in the Indian real estate market, different types of construction loan and their application, how draw schedules and interest reserve function, key risk in construction financing and mitigation strategies, current trends and regulatory impact in the Indian context, practical application through real world examples. So, these are some of the learning objectives we would like to achieve in this particular session. So, first, what is construction financing? So, what exactly is construction financing is the question. Think about it this way. When you buy a completed apartment, the bank gives you the full loan amount at closing. But what about the developer who built that apartment? They need money progressively. First for land, then foundation, and then structure and so on. Construction financing is short-term funding specially designed for this progressive needs. The key characteristics makes it fundamentally different from regular real estate loans. Progressive disbursements mean money comes in stages as construction milestones are achieved. No developer gets 100 crores upfront to build a project. Higher interest rates reflect higher risk. Unfinished buildings can't be easily sold if things go wrong. The specialized monitoring involves technical consultants regularly inspecting progress. And the short-term nature typically ranges from 2 to 5 years, matching construction timelines. Then let's understand difference between construction and permanent financing. So this comparison table illustrates the fundamental difference between the construction financing and the permanent financing. Now, the difference between the purpose. So, construction financing funds the development process itself, while permanent financing helps acquire already completed projects. The term structure is completely different. Construction loans are short term, typically 1 to 5 years, while permanent extends to long term of 10 to 30 years. Disbursement patterns represent perhaps the biggest difference. Construction loan disburse in stages, 15% at closing, 30% at foundation completion, and so on. Permanent loans give you everything at closing. Interest rates for construction are higher, currently around 10 to 14% versus 8 to 12% for permanent financing, reflecting the additional risk involved. Then repayment structure also differ dramatically. Construction loan typically requires only interest payment with the full principal due at maturity, what we call a balloon payment. Permanent loans use traditional amortizing payments spreading principal over the loan term. And we understand that risk is of course higher in construction financing and it is lower in permanent financing. Now, examine the current Indian market landscape. So, the total real estate credit in India reaches 2.6 lakh crores as of March 2024. These figures, can be updated, but you can understand the magnitude of the amount of real estate credit. That's approximately $31 billion, showing the massive scale of the Indian real estate market. The key players here include SBI, Bank of Baroda, PNB for public sector bank. These are some of the names. Then we have private banks such as HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank. These are the top banks in their particular sector, so that is why they are. But other banks are also doing the financing in this particular area. And then we have NBFC, which is Piramal Capital, PNB Housing Finance. We have alternative funds such as SDFC Capital, Kotak Alternate Asset. And then we have foreign investors like Blackstone, Brookfield, KKR. So, this diversification which is there is very crucial to industry's growth and resilience. Then coming to market share distribution. So, you can see that public sector bank have around 35% in it, private banks around 30%, NBFC 20%, and AIFs have around 10%, while some of the foreign capital also, so around 5%. And the point is that landscape has diversified significantly post RERA implementation because of the transparency which has come in this area. Then coming to traditional construction loans. So, when we come to traditional construction loan, the most common type of financing, and that is which is the backbone of this industry. Key features include terms of 12 to 60 months, varying based on the project complexity. A simple residential project might complete in 24 months, while a larger mixed use development could take around 48 to 60 months. Interest rate currently ranges from 10 to 14%. For established developers, newer developers pay premium rates due to higher perceived risk. Then loan to cost ratio vary by property type, 60 to 70% for commercial and 70 to 80% for residential, reflecting different risk profile and market dynamics. Then we have disbursement, which follows construction milestones. So, no developer receives funds without demonstrating the progress. Then we have repayment structure, involves the interest only during construction, and then full principal repayment at maturity. Here we can see the example. Prestige Group securing 500 crore from SBI for Bangalore office project at 10.5% with 65% LTV ratio, LTC ratio. So, that is the kind of examples you can see. Then we have construction to permanent loans, represent an innovative financial solution addressing a major developer challenge, refinancing the risk. Traditional construction loan requires developer to secure permanent financing separately when construction completes, creating uncertainty and additional cost. The integrated structure has two phases. Phase 1 covers the construction period of 1 to 3 years with interest only payment, and phase 2 automatically converts to permanent financing for 10 to 15 years with amortizing payments. Conversion happens automatically upon meeting specified conditions like completion certificate and occupancy levels. Then benefits are significant. reduced closing cost, save 0.5 to 1% of loan amount by eliminating separate loan originations, and then refinancing risk elimination provides certainty that permanent financing will be available. Streamline administration reduces the paperwork and ongoing compliance requirement. The example here is your embassy needs 800 crore C2P loan from HDFC Bank, demonstrating that how sophisticated developer use these structures for large commercial projects. Then we have specialized construction loan types. Now, beyond traditional construction loans, several specialized types serve specific market needs. So, we have land development loans, and which finance land acquisition and basic infrastructure development, roads, utilities, site preparation. These carry higher risk since no structure exists, yet resulting in lower LTC ratios of 50 to 60% and higher interest rate of 12 to 16%. Bridge loans provide very short-term financing of 6 to 18 months, typically for quick property acquisition and opportunities. Think of a developer who needs to close on land quickly before arranging long-term financing. Higher rates of 14 to 18% reflect the short-term, high-risk nature. Then we have mini-perm loans, occupy the middle ground with 3 to 7 years terms allowing property stabilization after construction completion. These bridge the gap between construction and permanent financing, with rates falling between construction and permanent loan rate. So, once the construction period over and permanent starts, so there will be a dip in the rates which are being offered, because now it is much more safer to lend. So, that is how the rates will also fall. So, that is how these loans are structured. So, they are particularly useful for commercial properties that need time to achieve full occupancy. Then we have typical loan to cost ratio by property types. So, this table shows current LTC ratios and interest rates across different property types in India. Notice you will that our risk perception drives both metrics. So, affordable residential projects get the most favorable treatment, 75 to 80% and 9.5 to 11.5% interest rate, because government support and strong demand reduce risk. Luxury residential receive slightly lower ratios and higher rates due to market volatility and longer sales cycles. Commercial project sees around 60 to 70% LTC ratios, reflecting market uncertainties, but benefit from potential stable rental income. We have retail centers face similar ratios, but higher rates due to changing retail dynamics and e-commerce pressure. And then we have hospitality project receive the most conservative treatment of 55 to 65% and significantly higher interest rate of 11.5 to 14.5%, reflecting high operational complexity and market sensitivity. Industrial warehouse project benefit from strong logistic market demand and achieving around 65 to 75% LTC. Then we go to construction loan structuring elements. So, proper loan structuring involves 6 key components that must work together. Loan amount determination starts with LTC ratio, but require detailed project feasibility analysis. Lender examine construction budgets market studies and developer track records. Interest rate structure involves choosing between fixed versus floating, and so that is there. Now, fixed rates provide payment certainty but typically cost more. Floating rate offer potentially savings but create cash flow uncertainty. So most Indian construction companies, construction loans use floating rate tied to bank lending rates. Fee structure including origination fee of 1 to 2%, processing fees of 0.5 to 1%, and commitment fees for unused portions. These fees significantly impact project economics and must be factored into development budgets. The security package extends beyond just the project itself. Loan term must align with realistic construction timeline. Overly aggressive schedule creates unnecessary stress, and covenants establish ongoing requirements covering both financial metrics and project specific milestones. Then we go to security package component. Here, construction loan require comprehensive security package due to their higher risk profile. The primary security is always first mortgage on project land and structure. This gives lenders first claim on the most valuable asset, that is project land and structures. Additional security provide multiple layers of protection, personal guarantees from promoters and directors, ensuring individual accountability. If the company fails, individual remain liable. Corporate guarantee from parent company add another layer, particularly important when project companies are created as special purpose vehicle. Then we have assignment of project receivable. We have, which basically means customer payment flow directly to lenders before reaching developers, right? So, cash flow escrow ensures project revenue serves debt free. Debt service reserves account 1 to 3 months of interest payment, provide immediate liquidity if cash flow falters. So this multi-layered approach reflects the complexity and risk of construction financing. Each element serves a specific purpose in protecting lender interest while allowing developer operational flexibility. Then we go to draw schedule fundamentals. Draw schedule represent the heartbeat of construction financing. Unlike other loans where you receive funds at closing, construction loans disburse money progressively as work completes. This serves multiple critical purposes. One is your risk management, which ensures fund flow only as construction progresses. No developer receives money for work yet not completed. Cash flow planning provides a predictable funding timeline, helping developer coordinate contractor payments and material purchases. Project monitoring creates a framework for regular progress tracking. Lenders don't just write checks, they verify work quality and completion before each disbursement. And then we have quality control links funding to satisfactory work completion, giving lender leverage to ensure proper construction standards. So think of draw schedule as financial checkpoints throughout the construction process, they align the interest of lenders and developers. Lenders reduce risk exposure while developers get fund when we need them most. Proper draw schedule design balance cash flow needs with risk management requirements. Then we go to draw schedule structures. There are three main approaches to structuring draw schedules, each with distinct advantage. The percentage of completion method is most common because of its simplicity. When a project reaches 10% completion of the loan, the straightforward approach works well for standard projects. Right? 10% completion can draw 10% of the loan. Basic straightforward approach. Then we have line item method, provides more detailed control by basically going for disbursements to specific construction components, foundation work, structural steel and electrical system, etc. So this approach suits complex projects where lenders want granular oversight but requires more administrative effort. The milestone-based method links disbursement to achievement of specific milestone, regardless of exact completion percentage. For example, receiving building permits might trigger a disbursement even if the construction hasn't started. The approach works well when key approvals or pre-sales target drive project viability. So choosing the right method depends on the project complexity, lender requirement and developer sophistication. Most Indian lenders prefer percentage-based method for their simplicity and ease of administration. Then sample draw schedule percentage method. So this sample draw schedule illustrates how the percentage method work is in practice. Notice how disbursement align with major construction phases and cumulative requirement ensure steady progress. So loan closing triggers 15% disbursement after all approvals and achieving initial pre-sales targets. This gives developers immediate funds for mobilization while confirming project viability. Foundation completion 30% requires technical certification ensuring structural integrity from the start. Superstructure phases at 50% and 65% represents major construction milestone requiring significant capital and demonstrating substantial progress. External facade 80% indicates weather protection and visible progress important for marketing. Then MEP system at 95% ensures functional building system before final disbursement. And we have project completion at 100% require occupancy certification confirming regulatory compliance. So each stage has specific requirements that must be met before disbursement: technical certification, progress verification and system installation. Then draw request process. So the draw request process follows a standard 4-step process designed to verify progress and maintain quality standards. Step 1, require developer to submit comprehensive document like progress reports, photography, invoice and contractor statements. This creates a paper trail supporting the disbursement request. Step 2 involves technical consultant site inspection. An independent third party verifies actual progress, assesses work quality, and identifies any issue requiring attention. This independent verification protects both lenders and developers by ensuring objective assessment. Then step 3 requires lender review and approval based on the technical report, covenant compliance verification, and updated financial projections. Lender examines whether the project remains on track financially and operationally. And then step 4 completes with fund disbursement, typically occurring 7 to 15 days from request to disbursement. This timeline balances thorough review with developer cash flow needs. Efficient processing is crucial. Delay can disrupt contractor payment and project schedules, creating additional risk for everyone involved. Then we have interest rate concept. So interest reserve concept. So interest reserve solves a fundamental challenge in construction financing. How do developers pay interest when project generates no income during construction? Right? So interest reserve set aside a portion of the loan amount specifically to pay interest during construction, eliminating out-of-pocket payments. This mechanism improves project cash flow during the critical non-income generating phase, right? And reduce default risk for lenders by ensuring interest payment continue even if other cash flow falters. Typical reserve range from 8 to 15% of total loan amount depending on several factors, such as construction timeline, which affect reserve size. Longer project need larger reserves. Then we have applicable interest rates, directly impact required reserves. Higher rates require more money set aside. And then we have draw schedule pattern influencing when interest cost peak. Faster early disbursement increases average outstanding balances. Proper interest reserve calculation, therefore, is crucial for project success. Inadequate reserves can force developers to make out-of-pocket interest payments, straining cash flow. Excessive reserve reduces available construction funds, potentially requiring additional financing. Here is one example how interest reserve work for a 100 crore construction loan at 12% over 24 months. The quarterly progression demonstrates how outstanding balances and interest cost evolve through construction. We have quarter 1 starts with 0 balance, adds 15 crores in draw, creating an average balance of 7.5 crores and 0.23 crore interest cost. Quarter 2 begins with 15 crores, add to 20 crores, reaching 35 crores outstanding with 0.75 crore interest. Notice how interest cost accelerates as outstanding balance grow. Quarter 3 sees 1.43 crore interest on 47.5 crore average balance. Quarter 4 peak at 2.03 crore interest on 67.5 crore average balance. So total interest required reaches 15.8 7 crore, but with 15% contingency for unexpected delay or rate change. The actual reserve becomes 18.14 crores. This conservative approach protects against common construction financing challenges like schedule delays or interest rate increases. Then we go to major risk categories in construction financing. So we have construction financing faces 5 major risk categories. First one is your construction risk, where we have cost overruns. There can be situation of schedule delays, quality issues because of which there can be they have to redo, and that will cost, so that quality issues can be there. Client can raise objections, so that will become a complicated problem. Contractor problems, there can be labor issue, so during particular seasons labor might not be available. Then we have market risk, which is your demand uncertainty, right? Then we have price fluctuations, which can affect in multiple ways. And then we have, of course, the competitive pressure, which can also become a risk. Then we have financial risk, interest rate changes. We have talked about this before. Then we have funding shortfall, that due to some reason the funding has, there is a shortfall of funding, and then there might be extra pressure of finances, extra finances. And then developer capacity, that can also be hampered because of some other projects issues. So their financial capacity might get hurt. And then regulatory risk has become increasingly important in India. We have approval delays, we have regulatory changes, and compliance issues can significantly impact project timeline and cost. Then we have force majeure risk, which covers natural disaster, pandemic, and economic shocks. The COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated how external events can disrupt entire market. Each risk category requires specific mitigation strategies. Successful construction financing involves identifying these risks early and implementing appropriate controls. So ignoring any category can lead to project failure despite success in other areas. Then we go to risk mitigation strategies. Efficient risk mitigation requires targeted strategies for each major risk category. We have construction risk mitigation, which starts with detailed due diligence and comprehensive budget review. We have contingency reserves of 5 to 10% of hard cost, provide buffer for unexpected issues. We have performance bonds from contractor, which ensures work completion even if contractor faces financial difficulties. Independent monitoring consultants provides objective progress assessment and early warning of potential problems. So these are some construction related mitigation techniques. Then market risk mitigation emphasizes pre-sale and pre-leasing requirements. Developer must demonstrate market acceptance before accessing funds. Phase development approaches allow market testing and adaptation between phases. Comprehensive market research and proper positioning reduces demand uncertainty. And sponsor support mechanism provide additional backing when market condition changes. These strategies basically work together, and no single approach eliminates all risk, but layer mitigation significantly reduces the overall project risk. Successful developers and lenders implement multiple strategies simultaneously, creating a comprehensive risk management programs that protect all stakeholders. Then we go to financial risk controls. So financial risk requires sophisticated control mechanism beyond basic risk identification. So we have interest rate risk is particularly challenging in India's volatile rate environment. Interest rate caps or swaps allow developers to limit exposure to rising rates while maintaining upside potential when rate falls. Conservative interest reserves provides additional buffers beyond standard calculations. Many successful developers add 20 to 30% contingency to calculated reserves. Then we have fixed rate mezzanine components can stabilize portion of the capital structure even when senior debt floats with market rates. Then we have liquidity risk, which addresses what happens when cash flow don't materialize as expected. So debt service request accounts provide immediate liquidity for interest payment. Completion guarantees from sponsors ensure project completion even if initial funding proves inefficient. Sales escrow arrangements protect lenders by controlling customer payment flows. Line of credit facilities provide backup liquidity for unexpected needs. These mechanisms work together to create multiple layers of financial protection, ensuring projects can weather temporary cash flow disruptions. Then we go to RERA impact on construction financing. So RERA has fundamentally transformed construction financing in India. The 70% escrow requirement mandates that customer advances must be deposited in separate project account, dramatically reducing developer cash flow flexibility. Previously, developer could use customer advances for other purposes. Now these funds are strictly ring-fenced for project completion. Registration prerequisites are there. Projects to be registered before marketing, affecting pre-sales time and coordination with construction financing. Timeline commitments, specified completion dates filled with RERA, and construction is also has to be taken at a specific date. So this has increased the importance of construction financing, since developer can no longer rely heavily on customer advances. With working capital, RERA has made construction financing more critical while simultaneously make it more complex through additional compliance requirement. Then RERA compliance mechanism. Lenders have adapted their practice to accommodate RERA requirement through systematic changes. So document changes are there. RERA registration has conditioned precedent, no financing without proper registration. So escrow account management system is also has to be there, which ensures compliance with the 70% requirement. Enhanced compliance monitoring requirement means lender track RERA compliance as closely as construction progress. Disbursement adjustments align with the milestone payments with RERA reporting requirements, creating separate tracking system for RERA versus non-RERA funds, enhanced reporting requirements increase administrative burden but provide better project oversight. The example of SBI's RERA compliant construction loan product shows how major lenders have created specialized products with pre-approved documentation to streamline the process. These adaptations represent a new normal in construction financing. RERA compliance is no longer an additional requirement, it's fundamental to how construction loans are structured and administered in India today. Then alternative financing source growth. So beyond traditional banks, the construction financing landscape has expanded dramatically. Private credit funds now play a significant role, offering higher rates of 13 to 18%, but providing much greater flexibility in terms and condition. We have higher LTC ratios. 80 to 85% from private funds can be attractive despite higher cost, especially for developers who need maximum leverage. Faster approval process, sometimes week rather than months, provide competitive advantage in dynamic markets. Example of Piramal's Capital 175 crore loan to Tribeca developers, one of the recent. So illustrates how specialized lenders serve market segments that traditional banks find challenging. Then we have NBFC expansion continues as these institutions develop specialized real estate expertise and offer competitive rates between banks and private credits. L&T Finance 30-day approval process demonstrates how NBFC compete on speed and service quality. This diversification provides developers more option but require more sophisticated evaluation of financing alternatives. Then we have technology integration trends. So digital transformation is revolutionizing construction financing efficiency and accuracy. Loan processing improvements through online application platforms and automated preliminary underwriting has achieved 40 to 50% reduction in approval time across the industry. Construction monitoring has been transformed by technology. Drone surveys provide accurate real-time progress tracking without requiring extensive site visits. IoT sensors monitor quality parameters like concrete curing and structural stress in real time. Computer vision systems can identify defects and quality issue automatically, reducing reliance on subjective human inspection. Here, example of HDFC Bank's 15 basis point rate reduction for projects using integrated project management systems show how lender incentivize technology adoption. Then we go to green building finance incentives. So sustainability focus, we have up to 30 BPS reduction for LEED or GRIHA certified projects, higher LTC ratios for green building, extended loan terms for sustainable developments, then also climate risk assessment. We also have now flood risk modeling for coastal projects, heat stress analysis for extreme climate areas, and water scarcity consideration in water stress cities. So, an example would be Godrej Properties 450 crore sustainability linked loan with ESG targets. So these are some green building finance incentives which are taking place in the lending industry, and how they are also transforming according to the sustainability requirements. Then we have case study of Prestige Lakeside Habitat in Bengaluru, a 1700 unit residential township that successfully navigated RERA compliance with optimizing its financing structure. Project details include 1200 crore Whitefield, Bengaluru, a prime location with strong market demand. The financing structure involves 800 crore at 67% LTC ratio from a consortium of SBI, ICICI Bank, Axis Bank at 10.25% floating rate over 48 months phased. RERA compliance requires separate escrow accounts for each phase and 70% customer funds maintaining in RERA accounts. The coordinated disbursement waterfall ensured both lender and RERA requirement were met simultaneously. This case demonstrates how large complex projects can successfully integrate RERA compliance with sophisticated financing structures. Consortium lending spread risk while providing necessity capital scale. So phase development allows market testing and reduce overall risk exposure. Then we have key success factors. So the result speaks for themselves. Phase 1 achieved 85% pre-sale before completion, demonstrating strong market acceptance. Early loan reduction of 200 crores through strong sale improved the project's financial profile and reduced interest cost. All RERA and lender covenants were maintained throughout the project, avoiding penalties or defaults. The phased approach limited risk exposure by allowing course correction between phases based on market feedback. Key takeaway includes RERA compliance can be integrated effectively without destroying project economics. Phase development reduces risk by limiting exposure and allowing market adaptation. Strong pre-sale enables financial flexibility by providing early cash flow and reducing dependence on construction financing. Sophisticated developers like Prestige can optimize capital structure by balancing construction financing, customer advances, and internal resources. So this case shows that RERA compliance and financial optimization are not mutually exclusive when properly planned and executed. Then let's take another case. Commercial office development. We have Mindspace Business Hub in Hyderabad faced the challenges of uncertain pre-leasing market conditions during development. This required an innovative financing structure that could adapt to changing market conditions. The layered capital structure included a senior loan of 500 crores at 10.5%, representing 56% LTC, mezzanine financing of 150 crore at 14%, another 17% LTC for another 17% LTC, phased construction of 3 60,000 square foot phases allowed market testing and adaptation. A forward purchase agreement with Mindspace REIT provided partial exit certainty, reducing market risk. Risk mitigation strategies included an anchor tenant strategy, securing 300,000 square feet IT company, flexibility to convert to smaller tenant format if needed, and pre-negotiated covenant adjustments for changing market conditions. This structure demonstrates how sophisticated financing can address market uncertainty through flexibility and risk sharing among multiple capital sources. Then the outcome. So the result validate the strategy. Phase 1 achieved 85% occupancy within 8 months of completion, exceeding initial projections. Mezzanine facility partially repaid early, occurred ahead of schedule due to the strong cash flow, reducing overall financing cost. The forward purchasing agreement provided exit certainty and facilitated permanent financing transition. Flexible structure adaptation allowed the project to respond to market changes without violating loan covenants. What are the lessons learned for this? So that include layered capital structure, provide flexibility to respond to changing condition, anchor tenant strategies enhance credibility with both lenders and potential tenants. Contingency planning enables market adaptation without jeopardizing financial commitment, and read forward commitment can significantly improve project viability by providing exit certainty and reducing the market risk. The approach is becoming increasingly common for large commercial developments. Then practical decision framework. So when selecting construction financing, follow this systematic decision framework. Step 1 involve project type assessments and assessment to understand typical terms. Step 2 basically developer profile, so require developer profile analysis. Lender evaluate track record, financial capacity and project management capabilities. Step 3 involve financial source evaluation, comparing banks, NBFC, private credit and alternative sources. Step 4 focus on risk identification and structural mitigation, understand what can go wrong, building protection into the financing structure. And step 5 involve financing package optimization to balance cost, flexibility and risk management. Key factors include matching loan structures to project strategy, don't use short-term financing for long-term projects, balance cost with flexibility, sometimes paying slightly higher rates for better terms makes sense, ensure realistic covenants and timelines, overly aggressive term creates unnecessary stress, build in appropriate risk mitigation for your specific project and market condition. Then common challenges and solution. So cost overruns, that is a big issue. Contingency planning is required for this. Guaranteed maximum price contract, that can shift cost risk to contractors. Schedule delays, realistic scheduling, critical path management should be done. Pre-sales and leasing shortfalls, for that phase development, product repositioning, flexibility approaches should be used. Regulatory issues, comprehensive due diligence should be made and compliance systems should be checked. And interest rate fluctuation requires hedging strategies and conservative interest reserves to handle rate increases. Successful projects anticipate these challenges and implement preventive measures. Then essential points to remember. Construction financing is specialized, requires different approaches than permanent financing. There is a difference between them. We have to remember that. RERA has transformed residential project financing significantly. So understanding of RERA is very, very important. Draw schedules are critical. Proper structuring, balance risk and cash flow should be there. Then interest reserve prevents defaults, so must be calculated conservatively. Risk mitigation is multi-layered, so it can address construction risk, market risk, financial risk and regulatory risk. And the technology is changing the landscape. Digital platform and monitoring tools improve the efficiency. So that should be taken care of. So current outlook, growth alternative financing sources, they are increasing day by day, growing. Technology enabled efficiency improvements are being seen. Green building incentives are expanding and infrastructure development supporting growth. So infrastructure development supporting growth is there. Then rising interest rate environment are the challenges. Increased regulatory compliance requirement such as RERA. There are more regulatory compliances now. Market competition is affecting the absorption. So that also should be taken into account. Supply chain and labor cost pressures should be acknowledged and should be planned for. These are some questions which can be thought of after you have understood this class. That questions such as how will technology continue to transform construction financing, or for example, how will sustainable building requirements evolve financing structures. So think about all these questions. Thank you so much.